Billionaire discovers single dad janitor's hidden struggle and makes an incredible transformation. Tom was invisible. Every evening, as the bustling office building hummed with life, he moved silently through its polished halls. The smell of freshly brewed coffee lingered, mixing with the faint echoes of corporate chatter. Each day was a relentless cycle of mopping floors and emptying trash, a relentless routine that barely paid rent on their cramped apartment filled with secondhand furniture. Yet his 6-year-old daughter Mia was his light. Her laughter flickered through the darkness of his daily grind. One night, as he scrubbed stubborn coffee stains in the conference room, the door swung open. Jake, a billionaire dressed in tailored suits and polished shoes, walked in, exuding an aura of confidence and affluence. While sorting through his papers, he overheard Tom's impassioned dream of creating innovative tech solutions, born from long hours of mindless labor. For a brief moment, their worlds collided. Jake's interest piqued, and Tom felt an ember of hope ignite within him. What if he could escape this cycle? What if someone understood? But reality crashed back in. The weeks that followed were grueling. Tom juggled multiple part-time jobs, each day dragging him deeper into exhaustion. He could feel the weight of desperation settling on his shoulders, the anxiety gripping his chest like a vice. All he wanted was to provide for Mia, instilling in her the values of determination and integrity. But that same determination felt like a metal anchor pulling him under. His dreams felt like distant stars. The harder he worked, the more unreachable they seemed. Just as hopelessness began to consume him, he recalled the memory of Jake's intrigued gaze. Did hope really flicker that night? Could a billionaire truly see his potential? But every time he contemplated reaching out, shadows of doubt clouded his mind. Class barriers loomed large, and he could almost hear the sneers from Jake's affluent associates. Just a janitor, what does he know? Tom fought against the barrage of insecurities that clawed at him. Did he deserve any chance? His heart raced at the thought. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Ooh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. But in that moment of overwhelming pressure, just when Tom thought he was ready to crumble, Jake sought him out. The billionaire proposed an investment, a chance to turn his ideas into something tangible.
The feeling of exhilaration mingled with a creeping sense of unworthiness. As Tom stood on the precipice of his dreams, he felt the weight of judgment and the fear of failure tighten around him. Memories of Mia's innocent laughter blended with thoughts of fear and financial insecurity, a juxtaposition that left him trembling. Would he betray her values in the pursuit of wealth? Desperation pounded in his ears. With his heart racing and uncertain breaths quivering in his throat, Tom braced himself. Would he grasp this opportunity or let it slip through his fingers like sand? The answers loomed just out of reach, the chains of his past ready to keep him tethered. He lingered on the brink, visions of promise and peril swirling in his mind. Would he step away from the shadows of obscurity and embrace this change, or allow fear to bind him? As the walls of complacency tightened, Tom stood ready to confront an uncertain future that could either exalt him or shatter him entirely. Tom stood in the flickering fluorescent light of the conference room, the weight of Jake's words pressing on him like a physical force. The proposition hummed in his mind, an investment, an opportunity. It felt intoxicating, yet terrifying, as if he was standing on a precipice, with a churning void below. Could he leap without knowing what awaited him on the other side? He pictured Mia's face, the way her eyes sparkled when she talked about the future, a vivid future that seemed tantalizingly close yet painfully distant. In the silence of the conference room, he made a decision. His future wasn't just about him anymore. It was about creating a life for her, one that wouldn't chain her to the struggles he faced. With that thought, a pulse of determination surged through him, urging him to seize the moment, to address the fears that lurked in every corner of his mind. But the doubts were insidious. What did he know about running a business? The tech solutions he imagined spun in his head like cogs in a machine, brilliant but untested. His mind raced with apprehension about venture capitalists and board meetings, of rows of judgmental faces staring at him, dissecting his every choice. The thought of standing in front of accomplished business people made his throat constrict. Still, deep within him, an instinct flickered, his resourcefulness forged in the fires of hardship. Each night spent scrubbing floors had taught him grit and tenacity, sharpening his mind with every problem he had creatively solved. Perhaps he wasn't just the janitor, but an architect of ideas, untrammeled by formal training but steeped in the realities of life. With that realization, he resolved to prepare. If he was to step away from the shadows, he needed a plan. Tom began to sketch his thoughts on old notepaper. The pages became filled with ideas, dreams, and the logical frameworks to bring them to life.
His heart raced as he let loose the stirring creativity that remained locked within, weaving a tapestry of aspirations he never knew had existed. The thrill of creation flowed through him as he recalled the pieces of technology and trends he had observed while cleaning the big office spaces. It wasn't just about mopping floors and throwing away garbage. It was about connecting the dots between automation and user-friendly designs. Slowly, he assembled an argument for why his ideas could work, drafting the first skeletal version of a pitch. As nights blurred into early mornings, his exhaustion became a familiar companion, but so did his passion. He taught himself the language of business through online courses and slowly built a network on social media. He reached out to specialists, seeking mentors who were keen to guide someone eager but inexperienced. For the first time in years, he found a community, albeit virtual, that validated his vision. His journey was marked by relentless self-reflection, moments of doubt still creeping in, making him question if he was truly equipped for this new realm. Every so often he caught himself staring at the computer screen in the dim light, wondering if he was foolishly chasing after mirages. But then the thought of Mia's future would drive him, grounding him anew. Days turned into weeks, and as he tightened the presentation for Jake, Tom's pulse quickened with anticipation. He felt the familiar mix of exhilaration and anxiety as he realized he stood at a crossroads, one where taking the leap could either launch him into success or land him back amid fears of failure. Finally, the day would come when he would face Jake once more. The thought sent a shiver down his spine, but beneath it lay a more potent force, a yearning for change. The time had come for him to confront what he truly wanted and face the questions that plagued him. Was he ready? Did he truly believe in the potential waiting to be unleashed? Tom took a deep breath, his heart pounding in his chest. Did he have the courage to change his life forever? With that, he picked up his phone, the screen lighting up the shadows of uncertainty, and prepared to reach out once more to the man who had ignited this possibility. The moment ahead held the promise of transformation or the threat of retreat. As he hesitated, finger hovering above the contact, something stirred in his heart, an inkling that this was indeed the dawn of something monumental. Would he finally step into the light or withdraw back into obscurity? There was no turning back now. Tom stared at his phone, the weight of what he was about to do pressing down on him like a dense fog. He thought of Mia, how much her laughter echoed in their small apartment, and how a mere shift in his life could transform both their fates. Something deep within urged him to just tap the screen, to initiate the roller coaster ride that could either shatter his dreams or elevate them beyond what he thought possible.
Taking a deep breath, Tom pressed the call button. It rang. Each tone felt like the ticking of a clock, counting down to an unknown destiny. Just as the call connected, a wave of doubt washed over him, urging him to retreat. But it was too late. "Tom, is everything okay?" Jake's voice broke through the murky uncertainty like sunlight piercing through overcast skies. "Hey, Jake, I'm ready to meet," he replied, his voice steadier than he felt. The exchange sent a jolt of adrenaline through him, a spark igniting a smoldering resolve. They scheduled a meeting for that following week. Tom hung up feeling both exhilarated and terrified, as if he was standing on a tightrope high above an abyss. Preparations became his sanctuary. Every evening after his shifts, he dove back into his plans. Ideas flowed like a current, and as he pieced together his pitch, everything began to crystallize. He mapped out financial projections, honed his value proposition, and rehearsed his narrative in the mirror. The transformation from janitor to an entrepreneur in the making felt surreal and invigorating. But self-doubt had a way of creeping in unannounced. Late one night, while scrutinizing the business model he'd drafted, an insistent voice echoed in his mind. What if you fail? What if they laugh at you? Tom found himself standing in the dim light, overwhelmed by the enormity of the challenge ahead. It was a tangible grip of fear, the shadow of his past lurking in the corners of his thoughts. Yet with every flicker of doubt, he recalled the reasons that pushed him forward,
the vision of a stable future for Mia, a life filled with possibilities instead of limitations. One evening, during a phone call with one of his mentors, Judith, he admitted his fears. "I just keep thinking, am I really cut out for this?" A brief silence followed before Judith responded, her voice calming yet firm. "Tom, it's about what you bring to the table. No one knows your lived experience, your perspective. You can offer insights that many with formal training can't." Her words thawed the ice of apprehension gripping his heart. That moment sparked a revelation. He understood his differences were assets, not liabilities. He no longer just wanted to survive, he wanted to thrive. He crafted his narrative, emphasizing his unique qualifications. Seriously, who better to innovate user-friendly technology than someone who had first-hand experience with the struggles of everyday consumers? The meeting with Jake approached like the dawn, unavoidable and yet cloaked in soft hues of fear and hope. The night before, as he lay in bed, he felt a wave of calm wash over him. No longer was he that frail figure hesitating on the edge of an uncertain future. Instead, he was a man about to share his vision, to advocate for the change he believed could elevate both himself and his daughter. The air crackled with potential as he walked into the conference room, the scent of polished wood mingling with fresh coffee.
As he set up his notes, he no longer felt like an imposter in a suit, but rather an emissary of his own journey. The moment was near, the atmosphere rowdy with the quiet buzz of expectations. He rehearsed silently, grounding himself in the reality that beyond the business jargon and flashy PowerPoints, it was his story, his grit and determination that would resonate. As Jake entered the room, Tom's heart raced anew. This was the threshold. Would Jake see the worth in what he had to offer, or would Tom serve as just another statistic of aspirations unfulfilled? The moment of truth arrived, and with it the realization dawned. He was ready to claim his space in the world. "Okay, Tom, show me what you've got," Jake said, his expression shifting to one of curiosity and anticipation. Heart pounding, Tom took a deep breath, prepared to step beyond the boundaries of his former self. The words were on the tip of his tongue, and as he began to speak, he could feel the tremor of a new beginning unfolding before him. Would this meeting propel him towards his dreams, or would it expose the fragility of his ambitions? Tom glanced around the conference room, grasping the sleek table topped with blinding white sheets and detailed graphs he had worked tirelessly to prepare. His palms dampened slightly, betraying the calm he hoped to project. The pulse of a ticking clock echoed in his ears, a reminder that time waited for no one. And yet, as he saw Jake's expectant gaze, a flicker of clarity cut through the anxiety. This was his moment. "Thank you for taking the time today," Tom began, forcing down the nerves that threatened to swallow him whole. "What I want to share isn't just a business idea. It's a vision drawn from my own experiences." His voice hung in the air, both fragile and empowered. He could feel Jake's curiosity solidifying into something more, a potential promise. As he delved into his pitch, each word became weightier, layered with the intentions behind them. He spoke of the challenges faced by everyday individuals who navigate an increasingly complicated technological landscape. Snapshots of Mia's laughter flashed in his memory, invigorating his delivery. He could see her in the future he was painting, the bright, spacious home filled with laughter, growth, and unencumbered possibility. Jake leaned in, eyebrows raised. "You've incorporated your personal journey into this, haven't you?" The question was more than a comment. It was a challenge, a chance to confront the very fears Tom had wrestled with for years. "Yes," Tom applied, his heart amplifying in protest. "I've seen how often the needs of real users can get overlooked. My background gives me insight into what actually works for people. I understand their pain points because I've lived them. I want to create a solution that resonates on a human level." As he spoke, Tom's worries dimmed. He was no longer a janitor seeking approval. He was a father with a mission, and this newfound conviction anchored him. The energy in the room shifted slowly, an almost palpable blend of anticipation and intrigue. "What are you asking for?" Jake's tone was direct, stripped of pretense. Hence the real work began. He needed to convey the value of what he sought clearly. Tom uncluttered his trembling thoughts, harnessing a strategic clarity he didn't know he possessed. "I'm asking for initial funding to develop a prototype," he replied, infusing each word with the urgency born from his modest beginnings. "But what I'm truly seeking is an ally,
a partnership rooted in understanding and shared goals. The silence that followed was a crucible of possibilities. Tom's heart thudded, awareness dawning that he was teetering on the edge of an irreversible shift. Behind Jake's eyes, Tom detected the motion of weighing his proposal, not merely the words, but the depth of emotion layered within them. Yet there was a lingering doubt nestled snugly in Tom's mind, a whisper reminding him of past failures, of what had held him back for so long. Would Jake view his proposal as genuinely groundbreaking, or would he merely brush it off as another dream chimera? He swallowed hard, shaking off the tendrils of self-doubt. "I know the risk is palpable," he continued, his voice gaining strength, "but failing is far scarier than trying." Each syllable surged with the urgency of his truth, transforming raw apprehension into fortified resolve. Jake's expression was inscrutable, eyes narrowing slightly in contemplation, as if he were weighing the gravity of not just Tom's plans, but the man himself. Tom waited, holding his breath as the span of the moment enveloped them both. This wasn't merely about numbers on a page, it was personal. The tension was electrifying. What if this ended how his last attempt had? What if the foundation he was trying to build crumbled under the weight of rejection? "Let's discuss this further," Jake finally said, breaking the silence. His tone was cautious, yet tinged with interest. "I appreciate your perspective. There's something here worth unpacking." With those words, Tom felt the fabric of possibility unraveling, opening a door he had long thought shut. But another part of him questioned, was this truly an invitation, or just a polite dismissal wrapped in corporate protocol? As the meeting progressed, Tom exchanged ideas, his confidence soaring yet held in a balance of uncertainty. Each verbal volley showcased not only his idea, but an evolution of self. He was no longer just a janitor, he was an architect of possibility. After the conference concluded, Tom found himself alone outside the building, the hustle of city life beneath his feet. The air felt charged, intense with the weight of change. Had he truly made an impact? Had he galvanized not just his ambitions, but a deeper understanding of himself?
But as he reflected, a sudden thought pierced through the haze of adrenaline. What if Jake didn't have the final say? The shadows of doubt materialized again, leading Tom to confront a shaky truth. He had to brace himself for all possibilities, including the realization that success might not look the way he hoped. And as that haunting thought wrapped itself around him, he began to envision a path forward, one not solely reliant on a single meeting, but pushing deeper into his vision, regardless of how others perceived it. The stakes had never felt higher, and he was ready to not just pitch a business, but embark on a journey destined to reshape his future. The time had come to face the reality a single meeting had only tipped him toward, and he understood more than before that this was merely one step among many in an uncharted territory. What awaited him next could indeed be the pivotal choice, a decision that didn't only define his aspirations, but also the man he was becoming. Would he have the courage to seize the next opportunity, or would he let the ghost of his fears dictate his future? Tom leaned against the cool surface of the building's exterior, the din of the city swirling around him like an unrelenting tide. He had delivered his pitch with conviction, but now the weight of vulnerability crept back in, wrapping around him like a shroud. The gleam of skyscrapers reflected fragments of his ambition, causing his mind to wander. Was that the man he was becoming, or merely a figment of fleeting inspiration? He took a deep breath, inhaling the crisp understanding that change was not just possible, but necessary. The conference room and Jake's attentive gaze echoed in his thoughts, nudging him towards self-reflection. Was he prepared to step off the ledge of doubt and into the freeing uncertainty of his potential? With each passing moment, a healthier curiosity bubbled within him, rising like the steam from the coffee shop nearby. He had spoken of solutions designed for others, but what had he overlooked in his own journey? What capabilities lay dormant within him, waiting to be ignited? He needed to work on himself just as much as on his business plan. The realization struck him. The next phases of his life couldn't depend solely on external validation. He resolved to invest time in personal growth, understanding that the business he wanted to build was undergoing parallel development. He wasn't just bringing a product to market, he was forging an identity rooted in courage, authenticity, and purpose. A few steps forward led him to a nearby park. As he settled on a bench, he reflected on his past choices, the moments when he had allowed fear to guide his steps. Every decision felt significant now. The struggle to rise from his upbringing, the care he devoted to Mia, and the dreams that long eluded him were threads woven into the fabric of his being.
Tom did not just want to build a company. He wanted to create a legacy that his daughter could admire, one built on perseverance rather than circumstance. Each time he had faltered was an opportunity to learn, and he now committed to turning that knowledge into strength. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows that danced in the fading light, Tom began to draft notes in his worn-out notebook. Each line became a testament to his determination, not just for his business venture, but for his personal journey. He scrawled thoughts not just on innovation, but also on resilience, creating strategies that encompassed both his dream and the man he aspired to be. In the days to come, the blueprint of his dreams would become clearer, but he knew the journey ahead would involve confronting more than business challenges. It was essential to embrace vulnerability while building a network of supportive peers. He needed mentors who could understand his dual narrative as a father and an innovator. The inner dialogue flourished. Tom examined connections he could forge, communities he could engage with, and experiences that could enrich his perspective. And just when he thought clarity settled in, a sudden impulse surged through him. This was not merely an opportunity for professional pivoting. It was a chance to reshape his identity, intertwining his courage with authenticity, allowing both facets to shine in tandem. But as the sunlight faded, a flicker of anxiety returned, stoking the embers of fear. Would these efforts be enough? Would he have the resolve to face potential failures without losing his newfound sense of self? Left with these unresolved questions, he opened his phone and typed a message to Jake, requesting a follow-up meeting. It was one step, just a simple text, but it symbolized a shift. He was now actively seeking to engage, rather than waiting for outcomes to unfold. The path ahead would demand all he had learned in the conference room, and all he would discover about himself. The next meeting with Jake could either propel him further into the unknown, or ground him in reality. And at that pivotal moment, Tom realized it wasn't just about the pitch anymore. It was about establishing the kind of future where he could face any outcome with pride. As he gathered his thoughts and rose from the park bench, he understood that the most significant negotiation was the one he would have with himself. With a renewed sense of determination thrumming through him, he glanced at the towering buildings surrounding him, knowing they were not just structures of glass and steel, but potential pillars of future success waiting for him to claim them. But what he didn't yet grasp was how deep the transformation would run, and what unexpected challenges awaited him as he continued this journey into the heart of his ambitions. Would he be ready for the critical lessons ahead?
Tom's focus remained steadfast as he walked away from the park, each step resonating with a newfound clarity. The city buzzed around him, oblivious to the internal metamorphosis taking place. He felt lighter, as if the weight of self-doubt was being shed with every footfall. Yet, beneath that buoyancy, a pulse of urgency quickened his pace. His meeting with Jake loomed ahead, an opportunity to validate the labor of self-exploration he had begun. Back at his small apartment, Tom set the dinner table with care, an act that carried significance far beyond the meal itself. He wanted Mia to see that ambition and humility could coexist. As she lounged on the couch, absorbed in her show, he felt a twinge of gratitude that she was there, a reminder of what he was striving for. Her laughter was the backdrop against which he would build not just a business, but a legacy. With Mia safely tucked into bed, he returned to his notebook. Words flooded from a heart turned towards possibilities rather than fears. Each strategy needed to encompass not just the how of his business, but the why behind it. It was a radical shift in perspective. He was moving from fear-driven actions to purpose-driven ones, a transition he had avoided for too long. The following days rolled into one another with the flickering excitement of starting anew. Tom spent evenings devouring books on entrepreneurship and personal development. He staggered through sections of business theory, breathing them in like fresh air. And amid all that knowledge, he researched mentors who could provide insight into navigating his dual life as a father and a budding entrepreneur. It wasn't just information that he sought, it was connection. Each name he noted encouraged him to step further out of his shell, to be proactive. In moments of reflection, he asked himself what stories would make him relatable. In what ways could he harness moments of vulnerability, turning them into strength? But with each question, a deeper realization gnawed at him. Confronting professional challenges would inevitably involve facing his personal demons. Not long after, Tom caught a glimpse of this truth when he bumped into his old high school friend, Luke. Luke had always been a success in their community, driven and admired. They shared a brief conversation, filled with phony pleasantries that quickly turned into awkward silences. "Man, you seem different," Luke said, a hint of curiosity in his voice. "What's going on?" "Just reevaluating some things," Tom replied, not delving into specifics. "Just be careful.
Sometimes you can chase the wrong dreams for the wrong reasons, Luke warned before walking away. The comment lingered like a chill, and Tom stood as if rooted to the ground. Had he truly been chasing the wrong dreams, or had he merely underestimated the importance of chasing any at all? As he walked back to his car, that question sharpened into focus.
The impending meeting with Jake was less than a day away. He prepared for the conversation as though it were an interview for a career-defining role, testing ideas against his morality and vision for a better legacy for Mia. Tom forced himself to visualize every detail: Jake's curious expression, the moment of connection, and the inevitable questions that would arise. Each preparation cemented the idea that this was not just a business pitch. This was his moment to claim a reality aligned with his aspirations and personal truths. That night, as he ran through potential scenarios, he suddenly felt the weight of anxiety returning. What if it all fell apart? What if Jake dismissed his ideas, leaving him to confront the hard truths alone, with no safety net? Yet within that heaviness lay a flicker of resolve. Tom understood that the real question wasn't about Jake's judgment. It was about his ability to withstand scrutiny and not lose sight of who he was becoming. Perhaps this moment was not just a test of his business acumen, but also of his personal resolve. As he shut his notebook for the night, one thought seized him. Tomorrow's meeting would rip away any pretense he had been hiding behind. In that bold confrontation lay the potential for both risk and revelation, and he felt an electric charge course through him. Would he be brave enough to unveil himself? Would he be ready to confront whatever shadows loomed over his aspirations? With a racing heart, Tom turned off the light, knowing morning would usher in pivotal change, either as a stepping stone towards greatness or an immovable barrier to overcome. And as he sank into sleep, he realized that both outcomes held the promise of growth in equally daunting measures. The early morning light spilled into the apartment, casting warm hues that felt both inviting and jarring. Tom awoke with a sense of determination, yet the familiar gnaw of anxiety clung to him like a stubborn shadow. He lay in bed staring at the ceiling, forcing himself to breathe deeply, mentally rehearsing the conversation with Jake. Today mattered. It wasn't just about his ideas, but also about who he was becoming. He slipped into the clothes he had set aside the night before, each piece a layer of his emerging self. The fresh scent of coffee filled the air as he brewed a pot, the tenderness of those morning rituals with Mia now transformed into a fierce resolve. This ordinary moment, the simple act of making breakfast, scrambled eggs and toast, felt monumental as he balanced the responsibilities of parenthood with his aspirations for entrepreneurship. Mia's sleepy eyes sparked with delight when she saw the breakfast spread. "Did you really make this, Dad?" she asked, her voice brimming with awe. "It's all yours," he replied, forcing a smile that masked his mounting unease. As they ate, the comforting sounds of her chatter began to envelop him, and for a few moments, Tom allowed himself to believe that everything would be all right. He understood now that these snippets of everyday life were threads of a legacy he wanted to weave and share with her. After breakfast, Mia dashed off to school. Once alone, the apartment grew quieter, amplifying the clamor in Tom's mind. With each tick of the clock, anticipation coiled tighter in his gut. He revisited his notes, scrutinizing them for clarity. Each word felt significant, a stepping stone to something greater. He annotated them further, embedding snippets of his journey into his pitch, reminding himself that his story was part of what separated him from the pack. Tom practiced in front of the mirror, each rephrased line becoming more fluid, less rehearsed. The familiar pang of self-doubt threatened to resurface, taunting his confidence. "You've got this," he whispered, steadying himself with each repetition. But self-encouragement only went so far. Driving to the meeting, he couldn't shake Luke's warning. The image of his old friend's knowing gaze fueled a fire within him. Was he chasing a fleeting dream, or was he truly discovering his purpose? The line between ambition and recklessness had never felt more precarious, yet this uncertainty also ignited ambition. The thrill of stepping into the unknown transformed doubt into determination. When he arrived at the cafe, his heart raced with adrenaline. The decor of muted colors against the backdrop of bustling coffee machines felt vibrant, electric. Jake sat at a corner table, casually scrolling through his phone. He looked up just as Tom approached. "Glad you could make it," Jake said, not quite meeting his eyes. "Thanks for having me," Tom replied, his voice steadier than he'd anticipated. They exchanged pleasantries, but the moment of truth hovered like a storm cloud. As they settled into their conversation, Tom felt a mounting pressure, the need to unveil not just his business proposal, but his vulnerability. "So, what's the idea you wanted to pitch?" Jake asked, the directness of his tone making Tom's stomach flip. Tom took a deep breath, recalling the myriad conversations he had had with himself. "It's about creating a space where independence and aspiration coalesce, an incubator for single parents to thrive professionally while nurturing their families." His voice was firm, earnest.
Jake's eyebrows furrowed in contemplation, and for a fleeting second Tom felt a shifting in the dynamic. Interesting, Jake acknowledged. But why now? At that moment, Tom wrestled with his instinct to gloss over the personal challenges that shaped his vision. Instead, he leaned into it, drawing from a well of vulnerability he had rarely tapped. Because I know the struggle, I've lived it, and I want to build something that not only supports parents like me, but inspires them.
Jake's gaze sharpened, catching a glimpse of the man behind the pitch. The silence stretched between them, pregnant with potential. Would this authenticity resonate, or would it leave him exposed? And then, as they sat locked in this moment, Tom realized that true bravery lay not in fearlessness, but in the willingness to be seen, fully, without the armor of pretense. The conversation shifted, morphing into something that felt less transactional and more impactful. Ideas flowed between them, punctuated by bursts of laughter and the shared weight of ambition. Tom could sense the tide of the discussion changing, his vision becoming increasingly clearer. While he had prepared for Jake's scrutiny, it was the acceptance of his own journey that fortified him. But just as Tom felt a surge of hope, Jake leaned back, a contemplative look on his face. "You know, I think there's a lot to unpack in your idea, but let's ensure it aligns with what I can offer." A sense of foreboding washed over him, the flicker of uncertainty reigniting in his gut. What if this promise of connection led to a dead end? Perhaps this isn't just a launch for the project, but also a launch for how you really express yourself, Jake continued. But it requires more than just ambition. There it was, the bait, the challenge. Tom's heart raced, his breath quickened. Are you ready to confront the depth of your own story? With those words, a jolt of apprehension surged through Tom. Did he truly have the capacity to unfurl the layers of his past in a way that could forge not just opportunity, but connection? As they delved deeper into the conversation, Tom understood that his journey was just beginning. The risk of revelation was not merely about his idea, but revealed an inherent truth. Success would demand more than just a business proposition. It would require an unguarded exploration of his heart. The moment solidified his resolve. With every word spoken, he navigated through the precarious balance of ambition and vulnerability. But as the nervous tension faded, an unexpected thought loomed ominously. Was naked ambition the price of this new path, and could he bear to pay it? The answer remained tantalizingly out of reach, swirling in the depths of uncertainty. Tom sat in the cafe, a ripe tension saturating the air. Jake's probing question lingered in his mind, and it was as if the eerie calm that followed had summoned the storm inside him. He needed to unearth his story, to uncover the dormant courage that had lain silent for too long. A thrill of vulnerability coursed through him, buoyed by the realization that revealing his past could bridge the gap between ambition and authenticity. "Let's cut to the chase," Tom proposed, his voice steady despite the tempest swirling within. "I haven't always had this vision. The truth is, there were days I barely got by." His admission carved a pathway through the thick air, opening up space for an honest dialogue.
Jake leaned in, interest piqued, urging Tom to delve deeper. "What do you mean?" "After Mia's mother left us, everything changed," Tom began, his throat tightening as waves of memory crashed over him. "I was not just a dad. I was lost, trying to find a semblance of stability while navigating through a minefield of self-doubt." He paused, weighing his next words. "I worked odd jobs, sometimes 2 or 3 at a time just to keep the lights on. I remember scrubbing floors late into the night, a part of me sinking deeper into exhaustion, and another part churning with dreams I thought were out of reach. Was this the moment to peel back the layers completely? He had nothing to lose but the fear of judgment. I felt like a failure," he confessed. Each bill that piled up seemed like a reminder that I wasn't enough. But then, something shifted. When I looked at Mia, I didn't just see a daughter. I saw my why, my motivation to build something better. Surprisingly, his honesty elicited a reaction from Jake. The billionaire's demeanor softened, almost humanizing him in the process. "It's easy to see ambition as what we project outwardly," he said gently. "But that kind of struggle, that's vital. It's what connects us." In that moment, Tom felt a burgeoning sense of clarity. Perhaps vulnerability was not a liability, but a strategic alliance. By showcasing his struggles, he could transform potential resentment into a rallying cry, not just for himself, but for others who felt exposed and vulnerable. Tom pressed on, heart racing as the chamber was filled with an earnestness he had not anticipated.
Building this incubator isn't just about business, it's a lifeline for parents fighting through their own storms. I want to engineer a supportive community where we can lift each other and share our victories as well as our challenges. Jake nodded, his brow unfurled. There's power in shared struggle, but be prepared. Turning that into a viable business is a dramatic leap. The gravity of Jake's words churned in Tom's gut. Would he be able to sustain the vision while bringing forth the narratives of others, their hidden struggles? What if he failed at the delicate task of translating these deep-seated emotions into a structured, effective program? Tom took a breath, considering the stakes. I see that now. It's not just about selling an idea, but also about cultivating a culture of authenticity. His voice carried a newfound confidence. Great so far, Jake mused, enjoying the dialogue. But let's get practical. Your next step is essential. We need to outline how to turn this idea into something tangible, something that resonates with what I can bring to the table. The dialogue became rapid in pace, ideas sparking like electric currents. As they explored avenues of development, Tom was invigorated. In those moments of creativity, he felt assured that beneath his apprehensions lay a wellspring of innovative potential.
But amid the excitement, self-doubt nipped at his heels. What parts of his life still remained unexamined? Did he have the stamina not just to share, but to also pioneer the deep storytelling necessary for his vision? Just as the light seemed to grow brighter, Jake pivoted suddenly. If you truly believe in this incubator, you'll need to confront your biggest fear, exposing yourself, your story, to the world. Can you commit to that? Tom felt the weight of the request pressing down on him, challenging the very essence of his identity. This was his defining moment. He could feel the threshold of transformation shift under his feet. I can, he responded, voice booming with unexpected authority. I'm ready. His resolve solidified further with each heartbeat. Yet, as he locked eyes with Jake, he knew his journey was only beginning, infused with the promise of challenge. The pair started to outline action steps, a roadmap developing in their midst. But beneath the optimistic dialogue, uncertainty festered. Was he truly prepared to confront not just the stories of others, but his own deeper truths? The cafe buzzed around him, distractions humming in the background, as Tom grappled with the burgeoning realization. This venture would demand not just his professional expertise, but a reconstruction of his very self. As they wrapped up, Jake offered a parting thought that sent a tremor through Tom's resolve. Remember, bare your soul, and you might find deeper connections than you expect. Walking away from the cafe, Tom pondered this. The line separating ambition and vulnerability had blurred, and a daunting crossroads lay ahead. Could he truly transform his personal narrative into a beacon for others, or risk exposing himself in ways that might shatter him entirely? The thought lingered, heavy with the weight of all he yet to reckon. Was he prepared to step into the abyss of his own story, where clarity mingled with chaos? The challenge loomed, and so did the question. What truth awaited him at the bottom of this uncharted journey? Tom paced outside the cafe, the bustling sounds of the city fading into a dull hum. Each step echoed his newfound commitment, but uncertainty tightened around his chest like a vice. What he had agreed to was daunting, yet a flicker of determination ignited within him. He was on the edge of a precipice, one that demanded courage to jump into an unknown abyss and reclaim parts of himself he had long buried. Hours later, back at home, Tom sat at the edge of Mia's bed. She was curled up, blissfully unaware of the upheaval swirling in her father's mind. The shadows on the walls seemed to mirror the fears consuming him. For years he had been the steadfast provider, but beneath that image lay a man wrestling with vulnerability. How much of himself could he afford to share without shattering the identity he had developed for his sake? Eventually, he pulled out a notebook, its pages blank, yet brimming with potential.
He recalled Jake's words, "Bare your soul." Could this be the beginning of his journey into self-exploration? He took a deep breath and started to write. The letters came haltingly at first, but slowly the words formed a narrative, one that wove together his hopes and fears. The ink revealed a tapestry of memories, the nights spent working past the point of exhaustion, the heartache from losing Mia's mother, the guilt of not making enough money to provide the life he once envisioned for them. The act of writing felt liberating, a catharsis that peeled away layers of shame and self-doubt. Then he paused, questioning, would anyone genuinely resonate with his experiences? As he fought back the doubt, something clicked. Most people face challenges behind closed doors. They too battled insecurities that turned their existence into a quiet war. What if he could capture that struggle and bring it to light? Tom's fire reignited.
This storytelling could serve a purpose, to connect with others yearning for empathy and understanding, forming a support system for people like himself who had felt lost, a community that could rise from their shared struggles and inspire hope rather than despair. As he mapped out his thoughts, he felt a rush of adrenaline. He began drafting ideas for workshops where participants could share their stories, learn from one another, and unlock the unrecognized potential hidden beneath layers of shame. Would this incubator not only foster ideas, but ignite human connections? But his resolve soon faced a chilling reminder. Jake's challenge to confront his own fears loomed like a dark cloud. What if, when exposed, he discovered that those who he wished to uplift turned out to be his harshest critics? Was he prepared for the potential fallout? In a moment of clarity, Tom realized this fear was part of the journey. Authenticity came at a price, but it was also a pathway toward genuine connection. If he could navigate these turbulent waters, he could emerge not only stronger for himself, but also as a role model for Mia and others. The next day, as he approached the cafe again, the weight of his decisions settled firmly on his shoulders. He greeted Jake with an unexpected determination shining in his eyes. "I want to present my initial concept to you. It's time to unveil not just my vision, but my vulnerabilities." Jake's brow lifted, surprise mingled with admiration. The dialogue turned rapid again as Tom expertly folded his fears into his pitch, threading his personal story into a framework that envisioned not only the incubator, but a community of shared resilience. Yet amidst the dialogue, a nagging question lurked beneath the surface. What if the fear of judgment silenced the very voice he sought to amplify? With the plan sizzling in the air, he ventured one more thought. If I'm going to shape this, I'm going to have to share things that aren't easy. If we're to cultivate authenticity in this space, then I have to lead from the front.
But can I really do that? Jake's gaze penetrated deep. You'll never know if you don't take that leap. It's time for you to dive deep. The world needs to hear your voice, Tom. Tom nodded slowly, feeling the gravity of the commitment settling in. There was no turning back now.
I want to create a supportive ecosystem for parents who, like me, have felt the weight of societal expectations while managing their own aspirations. As he spoke, Tom caught the flicker in Jake's eyes: engagement, curiosity, and respect. Each word resonated with conviction as he unfolded the need for a collaborative space, encompassing workshops that foster shared experiences, mentorship programs, and community initiatives aimed at empowering parents to pursue their dreams. I aim to build something that can bridge gaps, not just in the business world, but in people's lives, Tom continued, the rhythm of his speech gaining momentum. He outlined strategies for cultivating real connections, story-sharing sessions, skill-building workshops, and even digital resources to support their endeavors, all stemming from the core belief that vulnerability could unite rather than divide. As the conversation flowed seamlessly, Tom could feel the barriers he had once feared dissolving. With every idea expressed, he also opened the door to his soul, unveiling the layers that formed the man before Jake today. The late nights spent brainstorming over coffee-stained papers, the echoes of Mia's laughter urging him forward, and the heart-wrenching moments of struggle that transformed into empowerment. But then Jake interrupted with a penetrating question, his brow furrowing in thought. "That's powerful, Tom, but you need to understand the depth of vulnerability required to let others in. Can you commit to maintaining this level of transparency when faced with unforeseen challenges?" Here it was, the moment of reckoning, the crossroads that demanded genuine introspection. Tom hesitated, grappling with the fragility of his revelations. Could he truly remain open without losing himself to judgment or fear? In response, Tom inhaled deeply, feeling the reassurance of the journey he had undertaken. "I can," he stated firmly. "I've come to realize that true strength lies in exposing our stories. If I want others to trust me with theirs, I must pave the way first. It might be terrifying, but I won't shy away from that fear anymore." A moment of silence stretched between them, yet it wasn't heavy, it was charged with potential. Jake's expression morphed into one of deep understanding. "I appreciate that, Tom. This is the essence of what you need to elevate not just your idea, but your own authenticity. But are you ready to navigate the tumultuous waters of success and potential failure?" Tom's resolve crystallized. He was no longer tethered to the insecurities that had long stifled him. Instead, he embraced them as part of his legacy. "I am ready. It's about learning from every moment, success or setback. That's how we grow, and I'm committed to this leap." They transitioned into strategies, brainstorming potential partners, financial models, and market positioning, delving deeper into an exchange that solidified their budding collaboration.
Each idea volleyed back and forth felt less like a discussion and more like a partnership forming, anchored by mutual respect. As they wrapped up, Jake leaned back, a satisfied smile playing on his lips. "Tom, I think we have the foundation of something genuinely impactful here. I'm invested, not just financially, but personally. I believe in what you're trying to create." The weight of Jake's endorsement enveloped Tom, grounding him in a realization that he had transformed. He had stepped into his narrative, merging aspirations with self-awareness, forging not just a business plan, but a new identity. Walking away from the cafe, Tom felt the electric pulse of change coursing through him. The path ahead would be arduous and fraught with challenges. However, he no longer feared the echoes of judgment. More importantly, he now stood proud, fortified by his story, a living testament to resilience. As the sun set pastel hues against the skyline, Tom reflected on how far he had come. There would be moments of uncertainty ahead, but he was ready to embrace them. Empowerment was not a destination, but a continuous evolution. With Mia's laughter echoing in his mind, he committed to both being a builder of a community and a dedicated father, each role enhancing the other. Together, they would forge a future unconfined by circumstance, bursting with possibility. As he settled down for the night, a renewed spirit washed over him, invigorating his heart as he envisioned the impact his incubator could unleash. This was only the beginning, and within that realization lay the strength to continue pursuing his dreams fearlessly. And with that, the curtain rose on a new chapter, one unlike any other, rich in promise, determination, and the beauty of vulnerability. Tom had finally carved his space alongside ambition, proving that true fulfillment arises from embracing one's authentic self. This was the dawn of Tom's empowered journey, and he was ready to unfold it, one brave step at a time. Don't let the journey of transformation end here. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help others find this powerful content. Comment below with your reactions and theories about Tom's journey. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion and be inspired.